Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And it looks like the PS5 stock situation unfortunately just got worse. I know there's been a lot of hope that it would be easier to get a PS5 later on in 2021, but that might not be the case after all. Yet things are not looking good right now, and we'll talk all about that today, as well as a new leak for PSVR 2.0. PSVR 2.0 sounds like a major upgrade, and I'm very excited about the new leak details that we heard today. Then we also got some new information on the Xbox Bethesda E3. This is a new relationship with the acquisition still being fresh, so the dynamic between the two will be interesting to see at E3, but I think we got some good news on that front. Let's go over some of the quick news first though. Resident Evil Village launched last week, and both critics and fans seem to really like the new entry in the long-running franchise. I myself have been having an absolute blast with it. I still haven't beaten it or anything like that, but really Capcom has just once again knocked it out of the park with Resident Evil Village. So these numbers are very satisfying to hear. Yet Resident Evil Village in less than 1 week has shipped a total of 3 million units worldwide, which puts it right in line with the Resident Evil 2 remake. Yeah, that's pretty good company to have, as many do believe that to be the best game in the series. It's actually my own personal favorite, though Resident Evil 5 still remains the fastest selling entry with 4.5 million shipped in just 2 days. But that right there is what's so amazing about these numbers. Survival horror games don't typically put up these insane numbers with each and every entry, so let's just appreciate what Capcom is doing with the Resident Evil franchise. And really, Village is such a fun game, and just like Ethan's Hands, Village is showing the enduring persistence of the Resident Evil franchise. Let me know your thoughts on Village though. Have you been liking it as well? Now, we also got some news from Ubisoft. They posted their fiscal year report, and as we've seen from several companies, they too had a record-breaking year. Really, all of gaming is up right now, but there was some really interesting information revealed here, including their upcoming release schedule. They plan to release Far Cry 6, Rainbow Six Quarantine, Riders Republic, The Division Heartland, peppered in with some smaller games, all before March 31st of 2022. That is a lot of great-looking games, and that's good to hear for gamers. You know, honestly, Ubisoft has been one of the better publishers for next-generation titles. I mean, really, if you think about it, Assassin's Creed Valhalla launched next to the PS5 and Xbox Series, and then late last year, Immortals Phoenix Rising came out. I personally really enjoyed Immortals. I think it's one of the best new releases for next-generation consoles, and if you haven't played it already, definitely go try it out because you might be surprised. But then you also have Far Cry 6, Rainbow Six Quarantine, Riders Republic, and a new Division all coming out in the next 9 or so months. That is a very impressive lineup of games, and I'm sure they'll also have some surprises along the way. There has been some things pop up here recently that might suggest a new Mario plus Rabbids, which I would be all up for. Then you have Far Cry 6 and Rainbow Six Quarantine, and they're obviously interesting coming from successful franchises. Riders Republic though is the one that kind of surprised me when they revealed it not long ago. It kind of reminds me of Forza Horizon, but with all these extreme sports. That could end up being a big hit if they do it right. I mean, that still remains to be seen, but yeah, there's a lot of Ubisoft games to look forward to throughout the rest of 2021 and early 2022. At the same time though, it's also been revealed that Skull and Bones has once again been delayed. I believe this game was originally revealed back in 2017, and since then, it's been delayed multiple times. From what I've heard, Skull and Bones may have become more ambitious over time, and that's likely one of the reasons it was delayed yet again. Nonetheless though, it could release as early as 2022 or as late as March of 2023. Moving on though, EA also has some big plans in the coming months. They have been teasing some new information for the next Battlefield. A big blowout is set to happen quote-unquote soon. How soon though? That is the main question. Well, according to the official Battlefield account, their most recent tease suggests that Battlefield will make its debut sometime in June. They didn't exactly make it too subtle here, so I would fully expect some new Battlefield information next month in June. That is interesting though, because EA also announced a new EA Play Live event for July. EA Play Live will apparently take place on July 22nd. Now, they're not setting any kind of expectations with this event or anything, but this will likely be treated as their E3 replacement. As of this moment, Electronic Arts has not signed up for E3, and I don't expect that to change with them doing this event instead. Now, I can't speak for everybody, but EA is very hit or miss when it comes to their events. It's typically filled with their sports games. And hey, I do love sports, but they're not the most exciting games to show at events. I mean, you kind of know what to expect with Madden, FIFA, and so on and so forth. However, one thing that they could do this year is have some new Battlefield gameplay there. Even if they show something like a cinematic trailer in June, they could then use that trailer to hype up their EA Play Live event with some new gameplay and information. Then you also have developers like Respawn, which could surprise us, and then there's BioWare, which is also working on a new Mass Effect as well as Dragon Age, so maybe we hear about those here. Regardless, I'll definitely tune in for this event and keep you all updated. We could end up getting some nice surprises alongside those yearly sports titles. And speaking of E3, Xbox looks to have one giant event, and what I mean by that is that it sounds like Xbox and Bethesda will basically combine their events, or actually one will go directly after the other real quick. This will give you the sense that it's one big event, though slightly separated. This is according to the VentureBeat journalist and prominent insider Jeff Grubb, which we seemingly keep talking about on the channel. He doesn't really mind leaking information at all and has proven to have credible sources. Well, this could end up being really exciting, and let me explain. This is the first year ever that we'll see a big dynamic duo like Xbox Bethesda. Technically, these are two major publishers, and we've never seen something like this before. We still don't really know how this partnership's going to work. Typically, Xbox holds their own E3, and then Bethesda has their own show as well. In fact, Bethesda puts up some pretty good shows, but yeah, they have different ways of presenting their events, and each one of them takes up quite a bit of airtime. Xbox typically runs between 1 to 2 hours, and Bethesda often runs more than 1 hour as well. Now, maybe this year it's more condensed because these events are digital, and the fact that both will lean into one another pretty heavily. But if this is indeed correct, this theoretically could be a huge event for Xbox. I mean, we could be talking about a 2+ hour event of just pure Xbox content. Now, we still need confirmation and hear about their format though. From this information, however, basically Xbox could talk about some of their upcoming non-Bethesda releases and then showcase some third-party titles like hopefully Elden Ring. And then right after that, we get the Bethesda showcase where they talk about their upcoming games. You know, Starfield is heavily rumored to be here, but there's also the chance that we hear about Elder Scrolls 6. Now, that's probably doubtful, but I want to hope for it anyways. They also have several unannounced games that could show up here. Arcane is one such studio that's working on an unannounced game, and then I'm sure we'll get updates on games like Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo. Again, Bethesda has put up some really strong events in the past, and obviously Xbox Game Studios will have some new games to show as well. Yeah, this is starting to shape up into a huge E3 for Xbox and their fans. One thing is for sure though, we should start to see how the Xbox Bethesda dynamic will work this E3. Let's talk about PlayStation though. Stock issues and demand has been a mainstay with these next generation consoles since their initial launch, including the Xbox Series. They just can't produce enough consoles with these semiconductor shortages. I have heard the semiconductor problem could persist well into 2022. It's been frustrating for a lot of fans though, because a lot of people just can't buy these next generation consoles even though they want to. They have their money ready, but they always seem to be out of stock. And even when they get restocked, they sell out pretty much immediately. Now, there's a combination of reasons as to why. For starters, the PS5 is in very high demand, but also the way these consoles are being sold. The PS5 has been limited to online only, which has created a couple of major problems as we talked about yesterday. This has made PS5 restocks very competitive with not just real customers, but also bots and scalpers who want to buy these consoles simply to resell them at a much higher price. This is actually just absolutely ridiculous in my opinion, but yeah, on top of the incredibly high demand, you're also dealing with that, and these online retailers are just not prepared. There's just so much traffic during these restocks, you can't even get them in your cart half the time because the website just can't deal with that much traffic. Well, the thing is, there's always been this hope that the PS5 would be more readily available by the second half of 2021. And unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case after all. According to Sony, they expect PS5 shortages to continue into 2022. Yeah, that's not what you want to hear, but let's check out what they had to say. I don't think demand is calming down this year, and even if we secure a lot more devices and produce many more units of the PlayStation 5 next year, our supply wouldn't be able to catch up with demand. So there you have it. The PS5 will be on short supply more than likely until at least 2022 and possibly beyond that. Now, we do know that Sony wants to surpass the PS4's second-year sales at 14.8 million units, so we should expect a lot more consoles to be made throughout the year as long as the semiconductor issue doesn't limit them too much. So there is still hope for those looking for a console, but at the same time, it's likely not going to be easy to get a PS5 anytime soon. This truthfully is very disappointing. I was hoping that maybe it would be a little bit easier to get a PS5 by the time Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart came out, but that just doesn't look like it'll happen. Now I guess I'm just going to hope that, they improve before God of War Ragnarok releases. I know a lot of people will definitely be upset if they can't play that game day one. I mean, they could release it as a cross-generation game, but I guess we'll see. Now, I do have some good news though, as some new PSVR 2.0 details leaked online. We actually got some specs to talk about, and this is sounding really good. PSVR 2.0 supposedly will have 4K resolution or 2K per eye. This puts it alongside the higher-end VR headsets on the market. It's actually apparently better than the Oculus Quest 2, which is proving to be a very capable and popular headset. I have it myself, and it is a very good standalone VR headset. PSVR 2's resolution isn't quite as high as the G2 Reverb though, but still very impressive, especially if they get the PSVR 2.0 at an affordable price point. The headset also reportedly will have haptic feedback, which will make VR even more immersive, alongside eye tracking with foveated rendering. That one is really interesting because what that does is it greatly reduces resolution in your peripheral vision, which would improve what you're actually looking at. That could be a game changer, but all this sounds great on paper. I have to say though, what I might be most excited about is that PSVR 2 will reportedly be plugged in via USB-C. The one thing that I really hated about the original PSVR was the extra box that it came with that you had to plug into your PS4. It was a little annoying, so if they could do away with that, that's already a major improvement in my opinion. And one thing I don't think people give Sony enough credit for, they actually do a good job with their VR games. Now, I play PC VR as well, and I think Sony has made some of the best VR experiences to date. Both Blood and Truth and Astrobot were amazing on PSVR. I do expect another Astrobot for PSVR 2.0. They use Astrobot to show off new technology, so it would make sense to make a sequel here. As impressive as all this sounds though, we now need to hear the price point. This does sound like a higher-end VR headset, but they still need to release it at an affordable price point. I think they need to shoot for $400 or less. The Oculus Quest 2 goes for as low as $300, so I think Sony can get it down to a reasonable price point. On to the poll of the day though. 2021 is Metroid's 35th anniversary. This is one of Nintendo's most beloved IP, and even though Metroid doesn't sell as well as something like Zelda, Mario, or Pokemon, it's still an important Nintendo franchise. So far though, Nintendo hasn't really acknowledged Metroid's 35th anniversary, so I wanted your all's opinion. Do you think Nintendo will do anything special for Metroid this year? And 63% of you said no. Yeah, I was hoping you would be a little bit more optimistic about this, but it does increasingly look like they won't. I'm still personally holding some hope though, because there is that rumor that Mercury Steam is working on a new 2D Metroid. They did a great job with Samus Returns on the 3DS. Now, it didn't exactly sell a ton of units or anything, though that was more because it was limited to the 3DS when it should have probably came to the Switch as well. But I think they deserve another chance with a 2D Metroid for the Switch, and who knows, maybe we see that this year. Again, Samus Returns is really good, so I do trust that they can make another good game. Now, as a big fan of 2D Metroid, I'd be thrilled about this if that does end up happening. I guess we'll see what happens, but I'm crossing my fingers for that Nintendo E3 next month. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.